Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tea with G, a time for us to commune together and for each of us individually to really commune with your deepest truth, your deepest self. That's what these things are all about. That's what any real authentic spiritual teaching is about. It's not about knowledge. It's not about gaining access to some esoteric wisdom. It's about discovering you, who you are and who you've always been. Not the you think you are, which is really just a formation of history and conditioning. The sense of self that we all acquired early on was nothing but an identification with first with the body and then with the conditioning, which is the history and your family and the culture and the like. And out of that, the energy system, the nervous system, the body mind, whatever you want to call it, formed a sense of me, inhabited that sense of me, and has walked around as that ever since. But this sense of me is not stable. It's not reliable. We may have noticed. It can be successful sometimes and fail miserably other times. It's unpredictable. It's unsteady, which gives it away as something that is not absolute. It's relative. It's a reaction to circumstances. It's not who you are. And the whole purpose of us getting together, the whole purpose of you having a spiritual life, a spiritual practice, spiritual interest, is to find that which is stable, that which is that which you really are. Now, over the uncountable number of years that we human beings have been engaging in this inquiry into who are we really, there have been a lot of different words to try to encapsulate and point to who you really are. One of those words that is a very important word is the word God. Its origin was to give some kind of a word, a term, to wrap around something that you really can't put into words. You cannot capture yourself in any image or form. Now, the thing about words is that because it is simply a term referring to something else, it's not a thing in and of itself. And the word for God is different in all sorts of different languages. So it's not the word, it's not the shape, it's not the sound coming out of the mouth. It's what it's referring to. But what happens is the word, which originally was referring to the truth of your very being, gets reinterpreted so that it references something other than your true being. In the hands of someone who has never glimpsed their true being, who has never been touched by that, who is lost in their identity that is conditioning and enculturation, is going to use that word in reference to what is nothing more than a projection of itself. both glorified and vilified. So if we look at the concept, the idea about God in the West, we find a person, a form, a being amongst many beings, with a personality and a character and a disposition. Right? It's got a body, a location. Right? Somewhere out there. It's got a history. Right? Now that's obviously a projection of our personal sense of being, the conditioned self. It is a projection of the ego. It's a very glorified ego. Right? And of course, it will also take on the characteristics of the particular ego, which then becomes institutionalized in religion and culture and the like, and becomes not a nice deity up there, not a nice being, but a fickle, jealous, vengeful, vindictive, threatening, intimidating, right? Which are all the characteristics of the ego, or the sense of self, that has been divorced from its true nature, its true self. Right? But now, your true nature, right? The reality of you, the fact of your being, right? Because it's true, because it's not a belief, it's not a projection, it's not. It is not something that depends on somebody believing it in order to have any kind of influence. It is. It's here, and it's here all the time. And you cannot ever lose it. You can refer to yourself using that word I, and what you refer to can be, and for most of us is, and for all of us is at some point in the beginning of our lives, up to some point, and for many lives past, that I is referring to the conditioned sense of self, the ego mind, or the conditioned self, that sense that was created, that formed a concept, an idea of who I am, based on just conditioning and environment and circumstances. All just reactive patterns, none of which having any absolute authority or any real credibility. The spiritual journey is reclaiming I and bringing it back to the truth, to its true source. Now, maybe the best thing written in the Bible, other than many of the sayings of Jesus, was this revelation to the character Moses, who does not appear to have been an actual historical figure. It's a story written by somebody who seems to have had a deep insight. That when Moses asked God, who was talking to him, he was having a conversation with him, what his name was. When I go and talk to people, they're going to ask me who sent me, on what authority am I making these claims? And the answer was, I am that I am. The answer was, I am. Which means, if you take it to heart, if you take it that the term God is really pointing to the truth of your own being, then our reference point is your own sense of I am. The I am that you mistakenly associated with the conditioning is in fact the God of, of being, the God of all things. It is God. The sense I am is the essence of being. Right? It is the firstborn, it is the fundamental vibration of pure being. Now everybody knows the I am. If I ask you about something, you're not going to mention your name. I'm going to say, well, GP thinks. I'm going to say I. We all have the same name. But we've projected the sense of I am, the sense of being, the sense of presence, onto a culturally created imaginary character, and have imbued it with life, when it is nothing but a thought, nothing but an idea. An idea that has been so deeply believed that has been institutionalized and promoted, and has become a concrete influence in the life of all of us, even though the source of that influence doesn't actually exist as a thing. It's a belief. I love to point people to the very simple yet very subtle sense that we all have of your own being, your own existence. I am. That's what I am means. I exist. I am here. Right? And I know it. Right? I'm not like a rock. It's not like that rock's here, but I know it, but the rock doesn't, as far as I can tell. Homemade almond milk latte today. See if just for a moment right now you can see that behind everything there is this sense I am. It's in everywhere. It's in all of us. Right? That sense I am. Right? It's very still. It's not boisterous or impolite. It's just there. It's how you know you are. Otherwise, how would you know? And notice that you're conscious of it. The thing is, we just haven't paid attention to it. We haven't spent enough time there because we're so focused outward, right? And the I thought, the I belief, the conceptual I, the conditioned I, is such a deep habit, so deeply programmed into us, that it happens like reflex. We don't even realize that it's there. And we go, I am this, I am that, I am whatever. But now just take that I am this or that, and just take the I am part. Before you define yourself. Right? I'm old, I'm young, I'm male, I'm female, I'm black, I'm white, I'm Asian, I'm Catholic, I'm Buddhist, I'm a worshiper of Shiva, I'm an accountant, I'm a teacher. And set all the things aside that came after I am. And setting all of those to the side. Right? And this and that. And just the I am. What's left? What's left? This isn't always easy to do because we are so used to automatically, I am this, I am that. But just stop at the I am. Just notice, well, before I can be this or that, I must first be. I am comes first. And all the things that I am, I'm a bunch of them, different ones, even during every day, and I've been a bunch of different ones. throughout my life. I was a voiceover talent. I was a musician. I was a composer. I was a programmer. Right? Yeah, I am. But the I am has been absolutely the same the entire time. The conditioned version, the thought I am, has been completely unstable, changing all the time. Different beliefs, different conditions, different activities. But the I am itself, right? This I am is the true God. This is what is really meant by that term. The ultimate, that which is there before any form takes shape. And if you can just hook up to that, if you can just get your attention there for even a tiny little bit, you'll suddenly feel the quietness of it. You'll feel the stillness. Because the I am doesn't need to prove itself. It just is. It doesn't need to do anything to be. It doesn't require any effort. It just is. It wasn't, somebody didn't make it. Right? It is isness itself. And then you begin to discover that the nature of the I am, the perfume of it is love. With no sense of I to defend, it has no enemies. It never judges, never criticizes. It allows everything. It sees the best in everything. It's love itself. It's like the sun shining. It's not, this love has no preferences, this one over that one. It just loves, like the sun shines. The sun doesn't make any conditions on what it shines on. It just shines, because that's its nature. It's not a personal love. It's not impersonal in the sense of being indifferent or uncaring. It's just absolutely universal. This is your true nature. This is the God within. Just the fact just the fact that you are hearing my words right now, that there's something conscious of what is happening, is evidence that you are. Who is hearing my words, if not you? So, who is the consciousness that is animating this body? It's you. Now take away everything you have associated with that you, that I. It is I who am hearing. Everything you've ever associated with it. Your roles, your beliefs, your experiences, your past, the bad and the good that has happened, the good things you've done, the bad things you've done, and the future, aspirations, desires, what you'd like life to be like. Set them all aside. Just a little bit. Pick them up later. And what's left? Are you gone? Are you still there? But as what? Well, you just are. Not as this, not as that. You just are. Now, I recommend that you just visit that regularly. Because this is the truth of your being. It is now, and what has always been, moving the human you, the body, the experiences, everything around you, has always been this invisible hand of perfect love. You have always been that. You simply mistook it for the person you were taught you were. But the real you has always been active. It's always been the real movement behind everything. This, and once you see it, it's no longer the invisible hand of love. It is you, yourself, made manifest in the world as this human being with a name and a form and history and all of it. None of that applies to you, the I am. And the I am animates it. It is the spirit, right? The animating principle, whatever you want to call it. It is the true you, it's the true God, it is the true being. So, on that note, I'm going to bring the opening to a close. I'll sip a little more of my latte in a thermos so it stays warm. And the floor is open now for any kind of questions or comments or anything you'd like to share about the experience of just looking for a moment. And maybe you've done this before. I've done some meditations about this. Maybe you've listened to those. Maybe you've practiced those. Muji does this pointing all the time, who is my teacher. So maybe you've seen it there. But it is who you really are. Doesn't have to practice to be who you really are. Right? But that sense of I, right, that has been so focused outward needs to turn around and look back in. And there's habits going on, right, of outward looking. So there is a practice of bringing the attention back to that simple sense of being. You're already there. You don't have to go back there. But your attention does. So that the I, the sense I am, which right now is totally entangled in the conditioned sense of self, becomes liberated from that and returns back to its real source, which is the absolute truth that you are. And sorry, Ava, I've got this thing pushed up as loud as I can get it. Oh yeah, and now it's going to break up. I got to push it back a little bit. I've got the mic as close as I can get. I'm as close as I can get. I just, for some reason, over the last several months, my speaking voice has gotten softer and softer. So maybe I'll have to do something different about the microphones. In the meantime, welcome everyone once again to tea. The floor is now open for all of you, and while I'm waiting for questions to appear, I'm going to just go back and say hello to everybody. Hello, Rosario in Madrid, my friend Mary. Hello, Mary. I knew this title would get your attention. Ava, namaste to you. Liza on the East Coast. There's Karen. Hello to you. Savi Stacker, hey GP, plus chat. I'm very excited about today's topic. Yeah, I was very surprised because I normally don't get any kind of ideas to what to talk about until right before I post the thing to go live, and sometimes I don't even get it then. It doesn't happen, because I post it up there before live. It creates the event, and sometimes I don't know until the little live light goes on what I'm going to say, and sometimes even not then for a little bit. Hey Carl, good to see you. Sevi Stacker, God, good orderly direction, an acronym I love. God, that version of God has never stirred me wrong, for sure. Jay, Hariom to you. Paula, hi, love the title. Brent, greetings to you, Brent. Savvy said, the religious teachings of God that I was raised with never truly resonated with me. This has caused me so much turmoil in my life. Much suffering has arisen out of these false and very aggressive ideas. Much turmoil. There's been so much turmoil in life until spirituality gave me permission to believe in my own understanding of what God is for me. Oh, that's beautiful. That is just beautiful. Spirituality, these days, religion didn't used to be, right? It doesn't start out as just a cultural construct for enforcing the particular rules and hierarchy of a culture or society. That's not its original intention. And the term, I think, religio is where it comes from, and it means to bind. Right? It's very related to the Sanskrit word yoga, which means to yoke. Right? So originally, it was the reconnection, right, to the self, right, that was within. It got misinterpreted. Right? It became a self without, and the projection of the ego and hierarchy and laws and all of that happened, and then became an enforcer. God became the enforcer. I wish I could steal back the word religion, right? But now we've distinguished between religion and spirituality, and I think there's a huge number of people, it may even be a majority at this point in the polls, who refer to themselves as spiritual but not religious, which is really, this is a first in human history. This kind of moral and spiritual freedom to explore for yourself was only done by the mystics and rishis and sages, and oftentimes at their peril, because it contradicted so much the established mainstream views at the time, which are always enforced by force. It's never by love. It's always by force. So laws always have consequences. So your own understanding, then, you have the freedom now to explore, right? To explore what's meaningful, and be the true arbiter and authority over your own existence, or your own, what it is you let into your heart and mind as being true. Because what you let into your heart and mind as being true will influence every other aspect of your life. It's simply the way it happens. When we believe something, we literally believe it into existence. It becomes our lived experience. So simply experiencing something is not the evidence of the truth of something. It is only the evidence of our belief in it. And believed strongly enough, anything can be experienced. Right? And when it's strongly believed in, our sense of identity and safety and everything gets wrapped up in it. It gets very self-protective. And it will ignore all evidence to the contrary, right? So that it does not lose its grip on this very unstable and shaky sense of identity, which, when pushed to the limit, becomes aggressive, it becomes condemning, it becomes threatening. It threatens things like eternal damnation, right? What does that have to do with love? There's no such thing as an offense any human being could perpetrate that would deserve eternal punishment. None, nothing. It is the most horrific idea that has ever been foisted on humanity. But if you look at it in terms of a cultural weapon, oh my God, it's perfect. It's the best. Yeah. You don't even get out of this after you die. Ain't no way out. It's worse than the mafia. And it's not true. Never was. It was a creation of the human ego, right, to maintain its own power. And yet, in many people, even those that have kind of gone beyond their religious upbringing, there can still exist this very subtle, energetic sense of the fear of punishment, the fear of God, a God who is kind of the enforcer of laws, and shows no mercy whatsoever. So it can pop up into your conscious mind, and when it does, you go, "Oh, there it is." It's not a problem. It's not a personal issue. But the deeper we go in exploring the true sense of who you are, that sense of I am, that presence that's always there, the more of this deeper hidden unconscious stuff will come to the surface. But in the face of that sense of I am, which is the only consciousness, it's the only thing viewing it, it won't stand a chance. There'll be nothing for it to hook in, because you won't have an identification with the person, the egoic mind, that it can grab. And it can't grab the truth. Right? Our conditioning, even our deepest traumas, cannot grab the truth. They can only grab the idea we hold of ourselves. And if that idea is gone, there's nothing for it to grab. It just goes right through. Every thought, every feeling, every experience, everything becomes like a cloud just passing by. Nothing sticks. This is the mind of the sage. Thank you, Savvy Stacker. Hello, Peter, in Italy. Wish you joy, peace, clarity, and much love. Thank you. Hi, G. Hi, Carl. Is it just practice and making the conditioned self feel safe that allows to let go of being in charge? The pull to stay in my lifelong comfort zone is still stronger than the God within. Well, that's what the mind says, that it's still stronger, and believing that, it will appear to be stronger. So, on one level that I will often operate with people, it is on the level of emotional healing where we make the nervous system feel safe. Right? Right. And the more safe the nervous system feels, the more willing it is to let go of the unconscious things that has been holding on so tightly. Right? And that is a very legitimate approach. I do it all the time. That's what I use EFT for. fact, I'm doing an EFT open house next weekend, where it's going to be open for 2 days, of just tapping for whoever wants to show up. Talk about, there's an email going out about it tomorrow, I think. So hopefully you're on my email list. But the limits of emotional healing, the limit of all psychological, emotional, all healing, right, is it never actually touches the essential sense of I that is identified with the nervous system that doesn't feel safe. Right? So that sense of I, even seeing, there's a sense of not being safe here. For most people, they don't go, I don't feel safe. Immediately, the sense I is identified with the condition in the nervous system of not feeling safe, maybe never having felt safe. We can do a somatic releasing, we can do a bunch of different processes that will get the tight grip of the nervous system to let go. Right? But now we're identified with the nervous system in a better state. Right? It's good. It's extremely important. It's useful. And with some people, that's as far as I can go. Right? But, T with G has another dimension to it. Right? And that's not just having a better functioning personality or personhood, it's knowing who you really are, which is beyond all of the functioning. Right? Even the fact that you and I can talk about the nervous system feeling unsafe means there's already something that is looking at the nervous system, isn't it? So, what is that? Now, the conditioning, the reflex, is to identify with the nervous system. Now I was upset, now I'm not. Now I felt unsafe, now I feel safe. Now I feel comfortable, now I feel lonely. Right? The feelings are like that. The emotions come and go. And there's no technique in the world that can stabilize them completely. It can just get them from being stuck in one position or another. But what is it that's aware of the nervous system? That's the question. What is it that's aware of the various states the nervous system is in? Isn't that which is aware of it in a higher place, a more fundamental place, in an unconditioned place than the nervous system? And isn't that you? Isn't it you that's seeing it? But that I, right, until that's recognized, immediately identifies with the nervous system, which is nothing but conditioning. That's all there is to it. There's no thing there. There's no stability there. There's no permanent characteristics there. It is all just conditioning. There's no self there. There's no I there. There's just conditioning. It's like a robot or any just something that's just functioning with no sense of, there's no sentience there. And then there's you, the I. The mission is to disconnect, disentangle that sense of I from the conditioning. And you do it by noticing that you are looking at the conditioning. Right? You're seeing it. We can talk about it. You can refer to it, like you would your car or any object out there in space-time. Right? You can talk about your thoughts. You can tell me what your thoughts are, like you just did. You can talk about the pull to stay in the comfort zone. Yeah, it's really there, isn't it? Right? Right. There's a pull in the comfort zone. Is it stronger than the God within? Could it be there if you weren't there to see it? Could it be strong if you weren't identified with it? If you didn't give it its strength? Does it have strength on its own? No. It's just a movement of energy, a movement of thought, a movement of emotion, a movement of sensation. Right? Put your attention on that which is aware of it, which is the God within, right? Which only seems weak because of the attention we're forever giving to what appears, instead of what is aware of what is appearing. And you'll notice that while what appears is constantly changing, constantly, that what it appears to isn't changing at all. It's absolutely stable. If we want to be stable and happy in our lives, we have to anchor that in something that actually is stable. And it is a delight to discover that that is the real you. And it wasn't ever conditioned. It is the healer of conditioning. And that's who you are and have always been. Now, I'm talking like this today because that's what the subject is. And Tea with G is not just about emotional healing. Although, by all means, bring those here, they're welcome. Okay? But when I can, I want to draw attention beyond that, to that which is aware of the emotions and their need for healing. Right? Right? And that which not itself being in need of healing is capable of healing. Right? The broken one can't fix itself. Right? It needs something outside of itself. And I'm simply pointing you to the real you, which is already outside itself. Right? And that God within has always been stronger. Always. Because nothing exists without it. Hopefully that helps, Carl. Jacqueline, my dear Jacqueline. How do I reconcile the desire for a full, juicy life with the knowledge that nothing can bring lasting happiness? When I'm in a place of suffering, I often turn to this knowledge and neglect my vision. How is it, really, that nothing can bring lasting happiness, including a juicy life? Right? There's nothing more natural to us human beings than to want a big, juicy life. Nothing. We all want it. We want the relationship, the money, the success, the experiences, the great vacations. We all want that, right? We rarely take a look a little deeper. There's nothing wrong with any of that stuff. Right? Nothing wrong with it whatsoever. Right? But if we look more closely, the first thing we notice is that no matter how good something gets, it doesn't last. It comes and goes. Now, we oftentimes, because we're so convinced that the only happiness and fulfillment in life comes from having the conditions of it, right, that we just set about making the next set of conditions, right, to try to get back to that emotional state that we have identified as happiness, fulfillment, as feeling good, right? Which it does. It's very pleasurable. Of course it is. Something new happens. A new love, a new car, a raise at work, a windfall, or it feels great, doesn't it? Does the feeling last? No. The thing that gave us so much joy now, we're selling it on eBay a year from now. The person that gave us so much joy, their tiniest little thing was just filled us with joy. Now you're irritated by the way they sip their coffee or lick a stamp. Right? It's simply not stable. This is the mind, because it doesn't have any other reference point other than making conditions to have the experience of that pleasure, because it's got no other reference point. Right? Can't buy the idea that it's always going to be like that. That nothing is ever going to be permanent. It takes a deeper inquiry that is inspired by our growing spirituality, which is usually inspired by our experience of suffering, holding on to something that is impermanent and comes and goes. That it's like grabbing smoke. You just can't do it, and so it can't let go. The habit, it can't let go of just trying to create new circumstances, right? Trying to once again try to fulfill its projections in all sorts of different ways. Right? There does come a point in everybody's life, right? If not this one, then another one. And if you're here listening to me now, it means it's already happened. Right? There's been enough of an opening, right, that the potential for this I gets in. This awakening gets in. This insight gets in. And that is, there will never be lasting happiness from anything you experience. Now, that's not a denial of the value and fun of the experience. It's just bringing the expectations of that experience into line with reality. Right? The experience can be blissful. It can be ecstatic. It can be absolutely wonderful. It won't last. It can't. Right? So you can have the experience, enjoy the ecstasy of it, right, without getting entangled or stuck, without the mind then going, we got to hold on to it. Right? Because oftentimes the whole juice of an experience is lost, because the moment you get that sense of happiness or bliss, immediately the mind's going, how do I hold on to it? And immediately suffering is back. Right? Now, because you can't. How do I hold on? You can't. Right? So this deep teaching, all the way back to the Buddha, of impermanence, is the remedy for that. Right? And then, well, what of all my desires? What is it about the juicy life that you're actually after? Is it the conditions, or is it the feelings? Right? I mean, one person's juicy life is another person's misery. Right? There are many people out there who are their juicy life. They're very wealthy. They travel. They do all sorts of things like that. They have all sorts of possessions. For others, that may look like a real prison. All that stuff you have to take care of, all those responsibilities, all those things you have to do, it can look like a prison. Yeah. So the juicy life, right, especially when you're in the midst of feeling the suffering of the impermanence, which is the truth, by the way. Holding the impermanence, trying to make it permanent, is suffering. So feeling that suffering, you're feeling the reality of impermanence. Right? The thing that all of this teaching is trying to save you from, to rescue you from. And in that, we form an image, the mind forms an image of what a juicy life would look like. Right? I don't have it, therefore I'm suffering, and I'm going to invest all my energy into getting it. Right? And when I get it, then I'll be happy. I won't be suffering. The entire time I am suffering. Right? And of course, if it's elusive, right? If you for whatever reason you can't get it, which is most often the time, right? The suffering just perpetuates itself until something wakes up and sees, wait a minute, what the hell am I doing? I am following this idea in the mind that somehow the bliss of life, the true experience of joy, is conditional. And it has been doing that lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. This ain't the only time. This ain't the only go-round. Right? But in this one, something has woken up. Right? There's no need to fear neglecting the vision, your vision. Right? Your vision of a juicy life, has it been stable? Has it been the same? Is it the same now as it was a year ago? Is it the same 5 years ago? That's not stable either, right? Depending on where we are, right? Depending on what experiences we have. Right? It's going to look one way if we're really in a place of, almost rock bottom, feeling like right down at the bottom. And I've been there. Right? It will look one way. But if things are okay, it's going to look a different way. Right? With that juicy life. You see, it's unstable. You can't trust it. Right? We're here to point yourself, not even to the idea of impermanence, right? Not to the idea of that the impermanence can't bring you lasting happiness. It's an insight. Yeah, that's true. And my suffering is because I have tried to make the impermanent permanent. But our purpose here is to point you to that which is permanent, which is stable, which is reliable, and its very nature is happiness. It doesn't need conditions for it. It doesn't manufacture it. It doesn't pursue it. It doesn't have to. It's what it is. Because really, just being this place, absolutely stable, no effort, no fear, no doubts, would that not be happiness? Right? That is your true nature. That is what I am pointing at. I hope that helps, Jack. I hope that helps everybody. It's a big one. It's a big one, especially in our world now, in our culture now, especially in the West, and especially in the United States, which is extremely materialistic. It is a constant barrage of what the whole juicy life is, and what it should look like, and how you're going to get it. Just advertisement after advertisement after advertisement. It's everywhere. It's absolutely everywhere. This idea that it is some condition. Oh, and you can get it. You can get this condition. Just follow my 10 steps here. Visualize this. It's all wrong. It's all a lie. There is no pot of gold at the end of that rainbow. It is the universal promotion of suffering. That's what materialism is. So, Jay, thank you, Jacqueline. Love you. love you so much. Gee, I would have asked how to be more present when you're sick, but the thing is, I'm aware of the restlessness throughout my body and mind. It won't be like this crystal clear, laser-focused attention, but nonetheless, the restlessness is known too. Yes, so it's known to who? It's a great start, yes. It's known. Something is perceiving the restlessness. Right? May even also be perceiving this other part that doesn't want to be restless, that doesn't want to be sick, that wants to get rid of it as soon as it can. Also a movement. Right? That we oftentimes identify with that, right? Right? But wait a minute, that's just another movement as well. So, who's knowing it? Take that question to heart. Can you see who's knowing it? Right? Can you perceive who's knowing it? Right? Is it a shape? Is it a form? Is it a thing? Is it a person that's knowing shapes and forms and persons and restlessness and illness and all of that? And isn't it you that's knowing it? Right? So the question really is, who are you? Right? Who are you really? Who are you that is this ultimate perceiver? Right? Who am I, otherwise? I'm just going to leave you with that to ponder, because in non-dual inquiry, we can get to the point where, oh, I'm the one seeing it, and then never ask, wait, but who is that I? Who is that? Right? Who am I? Now you're at the place that who am I question can actually take root. Oh. And the moment you ask the question, your mind will present you all sorts of images as to who you are. All sorts of forms and shapes and history and all sorts of things. Right? Wait a minute. I'm seeing all of these thoughts and feelings arising, right? So none of them can be me, because right? I'm here looking at them. And then the query gets deeper. It goes in more. It gets out of the realm of form and thoughts. Right? And eventually goes as far as we can go. Right? Grace does the rest. Grace shows up. Of course, it's been grace that's been inspiring this the whole time. And what is grace other than the God within, the truth of you? So, thank you, Jay. Mary says, voice and sound have been perfect all along. Oh, good. It wasn't too soft. I've got this thing as close as I can get it, the microphone. If it says, oh, audibility is okay. I can't even think. Lower on my... Oh, it's okay. It's okay, Ava. It's all right. You can do no wrong in my eyes, Ava. Awake, not woke. Hi, GP. I have found Harding's headless teachings worth looking into. Very strange indeed. Oh, they're beautiful. Douglas Harding's Headless Way. It's beautiful. It's such a simple and direct pointing. Yeah. For those of you who might be drawn to it. Yeah. I don't teach that way. I've referenced it before. Matter of fact, I think I even stole the term, what do I look like from a distance of 0 from him? Right? So I think I've stolen from him as well. Yeah. I steal from the best only. Yeah. So yeah, if you find that really useful, perfect. Right? Just remember that the attention is on looking, and behind the eyes there's nothing there. There's just space. Right? But I'm there. Right? I'm there, perceiving even the space. So who am I? Very strange. Yeah, it's a very unusual approach, but absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah. He's a very cool gentleman, too. He's got this very classic, well-educated English voice when he speaks. It's really great. Lacey! Lacey, my man. Love this topic. You made it so clear. That's what Papaji meant when he said, just stop. There's nothing we have to do but to know. Yeah, just stop. Right? There's even a term in Buddhism for it. It's got shamatha, which is just the stop. Right? Meditation is the stop. Just stop. Oftentimes, people, especially in more personal development things, I'll have people do the practice of stopping and doing 3 deep breaths. That practice of just stopping is so powerful. It has such an impact on the whole nervous system, right? That something happens. It really opens up space. Right? So, when I say just stop, take 3 deep breaths. It's a pattern interrupt. It really interrupts the normally unconscious momentum that our sense of identity is usually under, the spell it's usually under. It, for a second, breaks the trance. Okay. Stop. Another one of Papaji's favorites, which I love, is just be quiet. Don't try to figure it out. Right? Just let the insight do its work. I find, even now with me, that I used to do it all the time. An insight would come and I'd immediately want to wrap my mind around it and do something with it and use it for something, rather than just shut up, stop, just let it be there, accept the gift. Right? So, thank you, Lacey. You're great. Nothing we have to do but to know. Keep bringing attention back to the sense I am, which is the knowingness, right? That you are knowing that you are, right? Without referring to anything else. It's beautiful. It is so simple. Right? Sevi Stacker, I feel it is still at my peril to not believe in religion. However, for me, I have no other choice. I have to put my well-being above acceptance by others. It gets lonely at times. Yeah. Yep, I have that punishing God belief. It's gotten less and less, though. Yeah. Yes. It's very, very active in pretty much all of us who are born in the West, with a few exceptions. Right? Very few exceptions. Imagine being raised in a culture that had no concept of the fall, of original sin, of the snake in the garden and the devil and all that. And many, all the Buddhist countries don't have it. They're not raised with this idea of original sin. There wasn't fall. It's not at all. It's not in their language. It's not in their metaphors. It's nowhere. Here I can say the fall, and everyone knows what I'm talking about. If I was to say it in Vietnam or Korea or Japan, they go, "What's that? What are you talking about?" Completely different orientation. So you can see it's not inherent. Right? It is a belief system. Right? And if we see it, notice that it's there, but also notice the part of you that gets pulled towards it, that is afraid of it. That's also a movement. That's part of the whole story. And if you see it as a movement of energy and not yourself, there's distance. Because it can't sustain itself unless there's some agreement on your part. Part of you is grabbed onto it. And you may be grabbing onto it not by believing it, but by being afraid of it and trying to push it away. That's another way of forming a relationship which also empowers it. It's actually nothing at all. It's just a ripple. But you'll notice there's a strong feeling that wants to take a position against it, which is creating an identification. Notice that that too is just a movement that you are looking at, and that you are not being pulled in. You are not afraid. You are not the subject to it. This refinement of seeing. This is self-inquiry, and it is the ultimate practice. It is that which unravels and brings the I back to its nature as pure love. Mary, exactly, you are speaking about how even though we can learn a new way of seeing God, there's still a deep hold on the past. Still working on letting it go. Good. So, I might suggest to you saying, okay, who's holding on to it? That feeling of holding on to it, that feeling of needing to let it go. Take a closer look at that. Right? Is that really you that's there holding on? Or is there simply this energy in the nervous system of holding on, and there's not actually anybody holding on? Right? So remember, unless you say, I have to let it go, I'm holding on, there's no I doing it. It's just a function. It's just happening. It's just the functioning of the nervous system. And the past and the history and conditioning and all of that. Right? So, is it you that has to let go? Or are you witnessing just this energy of grasping? It's subtle, but it's so powerful. So powerful. It's the I'm going to let it go, right? And doing practices to let it go is endless, never stops. Right? Because we don't question that sense of I that's holding on to it. We're simply trying to correct it, which means we're still completely identified with the I that's holding. Okay? Right? Separate it out. Right? There is no I holding it. There's only this feeling and movement within consciousness of a holding and a sense of identity that holds. Right? That's not you. You can tell it's not you because you can look at it. Right? You can see it. Right? Try that, Mary. You are spiritually mature enough to go there. Well said, Mary Sykes, says Sevi Stacker. One from her. Mortea. Love has always been a hard thing for me. It's closely related to pain for me, but it would be interesting with love. Yeah. Yes. The human sense of love, our very limited sense of love, which is really tied up in our personal sense of self. Right? It's very unpredictable. Right? Has a lot of overhead, a lot of projections, and a lot of expectations. And I can testify personally that has caused me just an unbelievable amount of pain and suffering. But that is a very constricted, very small sense of love that is completely tied in with a small sense of self, a sense of our identity. The discovery of the nature of our true self, the true I, as love, liberates that. This is not a love that knows pain. It doesn't cause any pain because it has no restrictions on it. It has no boundary around it. It doesn't have preferences for one thing over another. It's not judging anything. It is pure, absolute love, right? And nothing else. Right? That's discovered as the perfume, the nature of the true I, the real you. Right? Then the human experience of love expands beyond the borders of conditioning. And you can actually have intimacy. Right? You won't expect it to be perfect. You won't expect it to be, cue the violins forever. Right? You will notice it's human, so it's going to come and go. It's going to go up and down. There'll be moments of bliss, moments of feeling of not being quite present. It'll all be there, and all of that will be okay and allowed, because it's in the presence of this bigger sense of love. Right? You said the I and the not I. Yes. The I is always that which is seen. It's what's hearing my words right now. That is the I. That is the I am. Okay? The not I is the thought I. I am this, I am that. I am this person, I am this guy, I'm this age, I'm in this room, I'm in this town. Right? That's all relative knowledge. We use the word I, but it's not actually referring to any reality. It's referring to a belief of I. It's referring to a concept. It's referring to a concept that was formed based on conditioning, and it has no real roots or truth to it. Right? We find the true I by bringing attention out of that back to that which is aware of it. Right? I'm aware of the sound coming out of my speakers. That is my voice. Right? You don't need to know anything about the voice. You don't need any kind of idea about me, who I am. Nothing. Just the sheer recognition that I am. Obviously, if I wasn't, I could not be perceiving anything. Therefore, I am. Right? Just that, all by itself. I am. Nada más. Right? Can we just be with that? It's not easy. Right? There's a lot of shaking. Right? Because in that I am, there's no room for mind. There's no concepts anymore. Right? It's a direct experience. It's not made up. It's not a belief. It's not a set of conditions. It's a direct experience. I am. Right? And the impulse will be there to put all sorts of stuff on top. I am this or that. Will immediately be there to pile all sorts of stuff on top of it. But none of that could be there if this wasn't here first. All of that is conditioned on this. So what is this? I am. This is, I am. I really am. I don't know what that is. I don't know where it came from. Right? But I am. It's a fact. It's not a belief. Not a concept. It's a fact. I am. Everything will shake about that, because the habit is to turn the I am into something, to project it on something. Right? So, the I and the not I. But the discerning between the I and the not I is part of the development, part of the practice. Yeah, and the very fact that there is an impulse to do that is grace. It is the awakening. The awakening is not the reward at the end of some long practice. It is this that would bring you to the practice in the first place. Right? So, thank you, Mortea. Jay, every time you talk about the I, my oldest looks over with a smile. Oh, look at that. Thank you, G, for your answer to Carl. Lucy, the pull to stay in my lifelong comfort zone is also very strong. Carl has described that perfectly. Although this pull is not me. Yes, that's what needs to be seen. We feel like I am being pulled into it. Right? But the I that's being pulled into it is the conceptual I. It is the person. The true I, the true self, the reality, God, cannot be pulled into it. Right? So you'd completely lose consciousness of it. There'd be nothing left. There'd be nobody there. Right? It would be oblivion. Right? But all of it is appearing in your awareness. So who are you? You're obviously not that. Diane, hi GP. As we let go of concepts and beliefs, how can we be sure we're not just replacing with more illusions? Well, my simple answer is because the nature of the true self is God, is love. Love simply wouldn't do that to you. This is grace. You can look and see, is what I'm believing about myself, right? Is it absolutely true? Right? Maybe relatively true. Relatively true, I'm a man, I'm 72 years old, I live in Seattle. Right? Relatively true, right? But is it absolutely true? Right? Is this actually who I am? Right? I've been this character, I've played this role, right? But am I that role? Okay, no, I'm not that role. All right. So anything that pops up about that, or any attempt to put me into a different role, right, would also have to be a belief. Right? And remember, an illusion is a misperception of something that's actually there. Right? You know, mistaking, in a dim light, mistaking a rope for a snake, right? The rope's actually there. It's the snake that doesn't exist. Right? The moment you know that it's a rope, the snake has no more power. The illusion is gone. Right? Same thing, the mirage in the desert. Right? The desert's there. It's hot. It's sweaty. I'm thirsty. Right? But the mirage, this is an illusion. It's a projection of the mind. Right? So you, the actual consciousness, has projected on to the form the sense I am, the sense of actually existing. Right? And that's the illusion. This is just a functioning, it's just nature, it's life force, it's prana, it's just what's happening. Right? It in fact is emanating right from consciousness, but there's this seed thought that simply projects onto what is appearing, okay, an independent existence. And within that, a me that is a part of that independent existence. It's all there, right? Consciousness is there. Everything is there. What we call the world is there. But no projection. But it's not something separate. It's not even a world. Right? So you can trust in love, right? That you're not going to be misled. As Rumi beautifully put it, he said, the power that brought me here must bring me home. And of course there's teachers that you can bounce things against, right? Right? Who can help you. Right? You say, I'm not sure about this. Is this another belief? And then you can look together. Right? Right? The love has provided, right? You know, when somebody fully awakes, they don't suddenly, their body disappears and they're not there anymore. Thank God. They're here, sharing, right? Guiding, helping, right? So that there's always sages on the planet, right, that you will have access to in one way or another, right, that will help you do that, so that so that doesn't happen. And just remember, the ultimate guru, the ultimate God within, is love. And therefore it just takes whatever form is needed for you to get what you need. So it takes the form of a human teacher, it does, or a video on YouTube, or an experience, or just something you hear randomly, right, that just gets you, or sudden insight that comes out of nowhere. This is all love guiding you. Right? You didn't choose this path, it chose you. Right? It has been guiding the entire thing. Right? Never for a moment have you actually been walking this by yourself. Every single moment, grace itself has been guiding you. So not to worry, Diane. Right? Just keep. That's a concept. Right? Is the sense of being, the sense I am. It's here right now with you, right? We're always aware of it. Right? That's not a concept, is it? Stay there, because everything else is. Everything else is. Oh. So everything else is a concept, which can be useful. I'm using concepts right now to point. So there's nothing inherently wrong with them. So don't be afraid of them. Use them. Right? Bring it. Oh, that's a concept. Right? I am. That's not a concept. I really am. Right? And everything that is revealed from there is not a concept. Right? It's a revelation. Oh, perfect. Thank you, Diane. Wow, so beautiful, so clear. I desire to be there, says Lacey. Follow that thought. I desire to be there. Who's that I that is desiring to be there? Right? Is that stable? Is that trustworthy? Right? Right? And then who are you that is aware of the I that desires to be there? Right? Right? There's no place you need to get to. This is the paradox and the whole mystery of it. There is no awakening awaiting you somewhere. This moment, right here, right now, this seeing, that's all there is to it. Savvy Stacker, I've experienced what you're calling true nature, and it is so wonderful, yet for me fleeting. Why can't I seem to stay in that state space, for lack of better words? Whoa, well, welcome to the dilemma. Welcome to the dilemma, right? First off, I want you to know something that will be very encouraging. There is not a single being that's ever walked this planet that has ever awakened that has not gone through exactly what you're going through right now, the sense of seeing it, the pure bliss and joy of it, and then feeling like you lose it. No one has escaped that. Even Ramana is famous for his awakening at 16, right? His total awakening at 16 with zero preparation whatsoever, right? Said that nobody does this without concentrated meditation. And if somebody appears to have done it, it means they've already done all that work in past lives. So if you first accept into your heart that this is the path, I'm not doing anything wrong, I'm not making a mistake, it's not my fault, this is the path. This is my path to walk. There will be this vacillation, this experience of going back and forth. And no one can say how long it's going to last. Right? So what you can do is say, okay, in this moment, right, the experience I had of the bliss, that opening, right, is no longer here. Right? I'm still here. Right, okay. Now, if that bliss, as beautiful and as wonderful as it is, if it came and went, it can't be the reality. Now, to most spiritual speakers or seekers, I have just said blasphemy. This ultimate bliss is what we're after, right? No, it's not. We're not after. Enlightenment is not a peak experience. It is not a moment of perpetual bliss. That bliss is not like that. The glimpse that you had, very real. You glimpsed reality as it was, and the effect it had was this wonderfulness, this feeling of oneness and openness and freedom, and all of that. Right? But those feelings of wonderfulness and openness and bliss, right, were not it. They were the effect of it. Immediately, our attention goes to the effect. Right? This is it, right? No, it's not. It's not it. The glimpse was it. Right? So now, completely let go of the idea of trying to stay in some ecstatic state, of trying to stay in this. And there are many traditions that have all sorts of yogic practices for getting into different levels of samadhi. Right? None of them are it. Right? the true sages have said, that's not it. Yes, you can do that. Right? And get really caught there because you can mistake it for it. But there's still somebody going into samadhi. That essential seed of identity, the vasana that's been affecting every life, is still there. That's the one we go. So, look now at your experience of having that experience. It's gone. It was fleeting. And now this desire to recapture that. Are those not all movements in consciousness that are being perceived by you? Are you, the reality of you, are you not still here? Was that not just an experience that was experienced by the reality of you, but was not the reality of you? This is very subtle, and that attachment to the bliss is a very subtle temptation that so many fall for. I did. I did. Until it's followed with suffering. This idea that, oh, somehow I've just got to do more work, double down, and then I'll get to that space and it'll be perfect. Right? Yeah. That's chasing a different kind of juicy life, a different kind of thing. That's kind of the spiritual payoff. And in the meantime, what's happening? I'm suffering. Right? Right. So look at it all. Right? The experience came and went. I'm still here. Right? There's this deep desire to hold on to the bliss of that. Now that desire is not bad if it gets directed in the right place. What you're really looking for, right, is the freedom from the false sense of who you are. That's what the desire is for. Right? It's not for the bliss. It is for your true nature. And this experience of the vacillation is the sense of I returning back home to its source, right, which is the true I beyond I. It's even beyond the word I, right? Before you can say I am, before you can feel I am, you are. So you're there before anything, prior to any experience at all. You have to be, or you can't even experience the I am. You are that. You are the I am. Just don't try to think that. We just follow this through very gently. Yes, I, whatever I am, I saw. I had the wonderful experience. I watched it come. I watched it go. There's this desire here, this desire that thinks what it wants is more of that. Right? But what it really wants is me. I want to go home to me. Right? And I'm right here. So let me focus on the most I know about me, which is just the sense I am. I'm here. I exist. Right? Without entangling it with anything else, without having it refer to anything other than just that sense I am. And the craziness of the mind is simply because in that space I am, there is no mind. There's no thinking, there's no concepts, there's nothing for the mind to do. And we've been feeding it very well for a long time, and it's used to always having something to do. But there's nothing for it to do here. It's just this pure awareness of your own being. So, Sevi Stacker. Sharad, do something to listen to this live, give top knowledge. Thank you. I think that's what you're referring to, give top knowledge. Thank you. I give the truth to the degree that I see it, as clearly as I can. Right. I'm not a Buddha, right? I can make mistakes, right? So I turn everybody towards themselves, inward to their own self. Yeah. Because that's where the Buddha really lives. That's where the Buddha really is. Right? Rosario, thank you, GP, for the meditation. After I am, there was silence. And the knowledge that I am, that silence. I'm really grateful. Yes, you are that silence. Right? And beyond that silence. Right? So even the silence is perceived, isn't it? Yeah. The silence isn't the absolute. But it's as far as we can go. There's no need for you to go any further. Heinrich, why does love sometimes lead to pain or suffering? Because love that is tainted with human desire, that is constricted by the human sense of identity, is limited, it's personal, it has expectations, it has preferences, it likes this, doesn't like that, it gets disappointed, it has illusions, right? it projects on somebody all sorts of characteristics, and then is like, bitterly disappointed when those projections turn out to not be who that other person is, or that experience, or that job, or whatever it is. And if we realize that this is the nature of the human mind and the human sense of identity, there's no way out of that other than to come to a much more expanded sense of who I am, and therefore what love is. Our experience of love is going to be completely confined to our sense of identity. Right? The sense of identity, or the ego mind, has what love means to it. Right? And it's always going to be disappointed, because what means to one mind is not what it's going to mean to another mind. There's going to be these disagreements about it. It is possible in human life to have such a beautiful compatibility with another human being that you could develop what could be called a love affair that would last a lifetime. But it would require this willingness to show up, to wake up every morning with somebody new next to you. Right? Not holding any ideas of them in the past, and giving yourself the opportunity to fall in love with them over and over and over again. Because we tend to hold on to people, our image of them, right, while they're changing, because life doesn't sit still. Our concepts sit still, but life doesn't. Right? And of course, if our expectations are thwarted, we're going to feel pain and suffering. Right? If we can let go of those expectations, which is a higher sense of love, right, the sense of suffering will have to diminish. Right? We let go of those expectations by the deep inquiry into who we believe ourselves to be, that leads us to find out who we actually are. Right? So that the conceptual version of you, the programmed version of you, the conditioned you, falls away, is seen as nothing but conditioning, just repetitive patterns in the human nervous system, and not actually you. So thank you for that, Heinrich. Almost finished. Wow. Go on. Jay. I wanted to ask this a couple days ago on the Telegram chat, but didn't know quite how to ask. For me, there isn't any particular activity that absorbs my attention. For the most part, especially when it comes to the adult stuff, there's an inner resistance to not wanting to do it. I want to finish up the work as soon as possible, but in the midst of it, I trace these thoughts and feelings back to the source. There's still an uncomfortable energy in the background of not wanting to do it. I'm assuming it's just a part of changing a habit. I think I'm trying to rekindle that old memory of how it felt when I was practicing karma yoga. I think it's all false memories too. Wow. It's another movement in it, isn't it? Right? Remember that the flip side of attachment to something is aversion to it. Right? The I don't want to do it. Right? It's very much a sense of identity. I don't want to do it. The pure consciousness, pure awareness, doesn't have any objection to any of it. Right? There's no objection there. So if there's nobody there to object to not want to do it, right? It just happens. It just happens effortlessly, fluidly, no resistance, no nothing. So, so look at that. Say, who is it, right, that doesn't want to do it? Who is that? Right? See if you can isolate it as simply just another energy pattern running through the system, right, that does not actually have an I. Right? It's just a pattern. It's a mindless pattern, like a robot. And that the I that is associated with it is actually you, right? Who simply projected your I-ness, your amness, onto that which does not have an I. It's just a functioning. Right? When we can really see that, we'll let go of trying to fix the functioning. Right? We'll let go of trying to make it better. We'll let go of self-help. Right? Oh, we don't have to fix it. Right? This is just a functioning. And the seeing it as such tends to heal it, fix it, change it, right? Because there's no I there holding it in shape. Right? And if there's nothing holding it in shape, this stuff that moves through us is a flow. It's fluid. It's just one thing to another. Nothing constricts it. Nothing keeps it anywhere. It's just a constant flow. And that is what the dynamic consciousness is, a constant transformational flow. It's what we call the world, call energy, but it's actually the dynamism of consciousness. And in this dynamic activity, it's the universe. In stillness, it is the absolute. So it's an opportunity to cue into that. And you may find that this was an identity that formed when you were practicing karma yoga, right? But all of the yogas are temporary. Right? There is no such thing as a practice. The self doesn't need to practice being the self. Consciousness doesn't need to practice being consciousness. It just is. All of these are for our human sense of I that needs to be brought back home. Mary says, "Oh my God, I see it, Chi. It's in the nervous system." Yeah, it's not you. Freedom. David, your response to Savvy Sacker, evangelicals lay their BS on you. You have a movement of energy to push it away, and that forms a relationship. Can you explain more? Yeah, right. Attachment and aversion, right? The energy comes up, the memory comes up, the impulse comes up, the thing that in our more awakened state we recognize as a movement, as a habit energy of the way we were programmed, conditioned in the past. Right? Now what do we do with that? Right? So I was just saying to Jay, if you take a position, I've got to get rid of this, I hate this, I want this to go away, this is horrible, you've just formed a different kind of relationship with it and empowered it. Right? Because now it's a force, it's a power I have to get rid of, I have to deal with. Go away, and it never goes away. It can't, because your aversion to it, you're trying to make it go away, is what keeps it here. Right? So instead, it has to become, there it is, a movement of energy. Right? It's an uncomfortable movement of energy, very uncomfortable. It's my old conditioning. It wants to pull me back in to either being the guilt-ridden sinner or being the angry rebel trying to overcome it. Both of those are shapes that get taken, and the moment you take a shape, you're stuck in that position. So, okay, it's appearing. To whom is it appearing? Right? I am seeing that. It's crystal clear. Right? And this real impulse to get rid of it. I hate it, I hate it, I hate it. Hold on a second. It's a thought. I hate it, I hate it, I hate it. Right? That too is something that's appearing. Right? And remember, your desire is freedom. It's freedom from all of that. Right? You don't get your freedom by fighting something to make it go away. Right? I'm not free if my freedom depends on something not being there. It's not free now. It has a dependence. It's not free. So instead, I see, I'm not going to form any relationship with it whatsoever. Yeah? Either the acquiescent relationship that I was forced into in the beginning, or a rebellious relationship, right, that I needed to extricate myself from it. I don't need that anymore. Right? because that too brings suffering. It was necessary at the time, so I could break some of these horrible chains, right? But it's not the final solution. It's not the final end. And now that's causing me suffering, the constant fight. Who am I? Who is it that's aware of that? Right? Who's aware of the entire thing? I'm seeing all of these movements of energy. Am I not? Yeah, of course you are. Yeah, of course you are. Who else is? Yeah, it's me that's seeing it. Is all of these patterns, either the acquiescence or the rebel, are they not also just temporary formations, temporary movements in consciousness? The answer is yes, they are. And to whom are they appearing? Oh, to me. Am I all wrapped up into that, or is this something I am seeing? This is very subtle, and that habit energy of immediately identifying with some position is extremely strong. It's a reflex. We're in the middle of it before we even realize it's happened. And for many people, they can go through lifetime after lifetime and never realize it's happened. You're blessed in this lifetime. Deeply, I mean, more than you could possibly realize what a blessing it is to be able to recognize what I'm saying. Even glimpse the possibility of it. Right? This is the biggest blessing you could possibly get. Right? Oh, you mean this may not be me? There's actually freedom beyond this? Right? That I'm looking at this and it's not who I am? Ooh. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Thank you. Not to me, but to the grace that has led you here. Please, don't thank me. Just to the grace. It's like, thank you. My God, I had no idea. I had no idea the blessings that were flowing. Right? And, you may not like this. I've not always liked it. Eventually you see that every single event in your life, even the most horrific ones, were that grace squeezing you to get you to pop out the other side and see this. I have a new prayer. Lord, thank you for this disastrous life. That's what it took to wake me up. Does that help, David? I know the struggle you're going through with this. Right? Yeah, we want to be completely free of it. Right? No remnant whatsoever. Nothing lingering of it. So it's as if it never happened. Right? Totally free. Nothing lingering. The Mr. Dreamer, Radhe. Wake and Woke. Thank you, GP. That was so clear. The nervous system is not me. It's doing what it does. Wonderful. Yes. We have mistaken ourselves for the conditioning. That's it. That's happened. There's nothing wrong with the conditioning. You don't have to fix it or change it. Get rid of it. Right? It's innocent. It's the way it happens. This is what life does. Right? It's not me. It's not me. Redeemed. Free. Now, the habit of identifying with it will persist. God knows how long. Nobody can say. Nobody can say. But its days are numbered. its lifetimes are numbered. It doesn't have to take lifetimes anymore. You've already been shaken. You're still groggy, not completely awake yet, but you're not sleeping. Eisen Miller, it's self-redemption, the absolute redeeming itself from its own dream, after aspects of itself have been on Lycine journeys in form, truly divine magnificence. Yes. Yeah. Eventually you see that there wasn't anybody to wake up, that this has always been God's play, God's Leela. As Balyani put it, he said, God takes the last step on the journey that never happened. Right? So, but who is this self? If it isn't, it's not something other than you. So what you are experiencing in your own human life as awakening is the self awakening to itself. It is not other. The self isn't somebody else. It's awakening. It's not something other than you. And your experience of awakening, just as it is, with all its vicissitudes and pendulum swinging, is the self waking up. God takes the last step on the journey that never happened. Diane, thank you, GP. I know what I am most of the time. Maybe I'm too obsessed with the question why and where. Well, I don't really know whether you're obsessed with the question why and where. But remember, there's a tendency in all of us to want to conceptualize this, to think about it. And to a degree we have to, We need words to kind of get handles on things. We need words to talk with each other. You need words to ask a question that I can help clarify for you. Right? And I need words to clarify for it. So to a certain extent, it's just part of the deal. It's part of what has to happen. But they should always be pointing you to what you always are. You say, I know what I am most of the time. Right? Well, what are you on those times when you don't feel like you are what you are? We don't want to fall into the subtle trap of only associating the times when attention is there, or we're feeling, the bliss of it, or feeling the relief or something, as it. Right? You are aware of all of it. You are aware of when you feel, completely connected to all life, and when you feel completely miserable and disconnected from everything. You're still you. That you are not the experience that's happening. Right? The experience will always come and go. You are that which is beyond experience. It cannot be experiencing. It is doing the experiencing. And so if there's an obsession, it's aware of the obsession. And the obsession comes and goes. Right? Remember, it is not any particular state. It doesn't have any kind of conditions. It is not any particular experience. Even the experience of love. Its nature is love. Right? But it's beyond the experience of love. It is not even that. It is total stillness, total empty of all characteristics and qualities. And aren't you there? It's not something else. Say it's not something else. Right? It's you. You are there. Everything else is a movement in front of you. Wow, a lot of questions today. Savvy Stacker, that was what the feeling of bliss were from. I knew in that moment who I truly am, not what I have been believing that I am. That's the struggle. Not being able to hold on to the belief of who I truly am. Instead, still struggling with the limiting beliefs of who I am, if that makes sense. Yes, and this is the practice. Right? You can't unring that bell. What you've seen, you've seen. You've seen yourself. Right? And now comes the process of disentangling the sense of I from all the things that have been identified with. Right? Going right down to the deepest vasanas, that have been there for lifetime after lifetime. Right? So ask yourself, who is struggling with the limiting beliefs of who I am? Don't just immediately identify with the struggler, right? I want to get back to that. But instead, oh, wait a minute, struggling is being experienced. Oh, okay, there's an energy of struggling here, right? To whom is that appearing? Right? Am I struggling to be aware of the sense of struggling? Is it just here? Right? And you'll begin to extricate the I from all identification, including the seeker. Right? Right? Now that doesn't negate the struggling. The struggling is there. The struggling has to happen. The seeking has to happen. Right? They're all part of the deal. Right? But I'm not the seeker anymore. I'm not the struggler anymore. Right? This is just the unfoldment. Right? This is how the awakening unfolds itself. This is how the I is extricated. This is how God's play is playing itself out. Right? In the meantime, I'm just here. I'm aware of it. As Nisargadatta put it so beautifully, he said, I leave my human life to fulfill its destiny. I remain as I am. He had no issue with what was going on in the human life. You know? The seeking, the seekers, everything that happened around him, his own illness. It just, no problem. No problem. Okay? Because there was no identification left with it. Right? Now, to our sense of it, we're going through a process to get to a place of self-realization like Nisargadatta did. Right? That's what's being experienced on this level. Right? But maybe there's a deeper level from which even that can be perceived. So we don't get lost in the seeking. We don't become the seeker, but we see the seeking as just part of the play unfolding itself. Right? And this whole play is playing in front of me. Who am I? Who is it that sees all of this? The struggling, the beliefs, all of it. Even had the glimpses. Right? You just stay with that. It's simple, but it's not easy. It's direct. Yeah, that's probably better to say. It's direct. Yeah. Banks Fortnight. I once visited another realm. There was bliss. The bliss was like a celebration of reality. A very grounded bliss. Bliss was like a natural consequence of seeing the truth in this realm. Something like that. That's a very important distinction to make, that the bliss was a consequence and not the attainment. It was something else. People seek heaven, right? The reward of God. They don't really seek God, do they? Heaven. This idea we have of some kind of perfect blissed out state where everything's going to be wonderful. I'm going to be forever young and pretty, whatever. So it's so important to see that any experience, even this bliss, it's ecstatic, is just an experience. It's a consequence. It's not you. Because even that is being perceived by you. And so it's great to feel it, right? But don't get attached to it, because that's not it. You're it. Just you. Me 23, you're welcome. Hello, Ida. Ava, thank you for the beautiful satsang. Your love and wisdom always brings so much light into my life. You are the light, my dear. So funny. Jay, thank you, G. I could see the identity that was formed from it. Kind of remember the compliments and the image that was formed from having the identity of a karma yogi. Yeah. And it's it's an important phase in your life. It's good, right? But as always, the sense of self, because it needs something to cling to, right? It latches onto some and makes an identity out of it, right? And then you get stuck in being the karma yogi. And that's not you either. It's just a phase. You can become that if you want, right? For a while, just, drop it and be something else, right? But you are absolute emptiness. Just being itself and nothing else. Jennifer, Baba G, I've missed you. Thank you. I've missed you too. Where have you been? You're in trouble. Savvy Stacker, I'm still stuck in a rebellious energy in my everyday life. My nervous, yes, that's what it's there for. The rebellion was setting a boundary, right? It's what we needed to do to protect ourselves. It's full of anger and distrust, as well it should be, right? It was a defense mechanism that was needed at the time, right? But now, you see, it also keeps me separate, right? Because I'm not discerning between those that need the boundary and those that can be allowed in, right? Right. And the nature of love is wisdom, right? It knows this is as far as you can go, right? But as we become stronger in ourselves, we don't need the anger and the rebelliousness to maintain the boundary. We just, no, it's just matter of fact. You say yes when you mean yes, no when you mean no. Right? There's no extra energy required to maintain that separation. And there's a wisdom that sees, oh yeah, you can come in. You're allowed in. You're good, I trust you. Yeah. Also, it feels like it isn't yet perfect. Perhaps I'm not ready to let it go. It's still serving. That's very good to see, right? You can let go of any identification with it or it needing to be any different. This is what it needs to be. This is exactly what it is. And as long as there's still a sense there that needs that protection, it'll be there. Now, the more you come to see you as you, right, the one that's aware of the safety mechanism, the safer you become. Because you are immortal. You can't be touched. The sky isn't touched by the storm. It's just there, right? That's you, the sky, right? And so it's not even you that's not ready to let it go. The nervous system isn't ready to let it go. Fine, good, just love it, just great. Hey, as long as you need it, you hold on to that. Right? And simultaneously, by the way, I'm also needing more connection with others. This is no longer a complete solution, right? It's maybe we need to kind of move it around a bit so that we still remain safe, but we also get to connect. Right? We get to feel that human sense of connection, which is so essential, which the nervous system itself is craving. How are we doing on time here? Okay, we're running out. But the whole point of all this is to recognize who I really am. I guess another way to put it is being present. Yes, being present as you, knowing you, being aware of your presence. Right? You've never not been present. I guess all these practices, karma yoga, jnana yoga, bhakti, and raja, is to point back to presence. Absolutely. And of all the yogas, Jnana Yoga is the highest, because it is the path of knowing, of pure wisdom, of the wisdom that reconciles and includes all the other paths. It's the path of the pure knowing of I am. Listen, the persona claims ownership of doership. Yes. But it can't even do that, actually. The persona is a construct. There's nobody there. Okay? But this construct, forms the appearance, the illusion of an I, claims ownership and doership and all sorts of things. Right? Yeah. So, Lisa, good to see you. People are saying you can't unring that bell. Yeah. Uprise Queen. Hi, GP. Hi, Walsh. Can you provide insight on how to deeply love myself? Yes. Come to know yourself. Yeah. The one you do not love is not you. That may sound very strange, right? Because you're trying to love this something, but the one you're trying to love isn't actually you. Right? So you don't need to force yourself into loving it. That you, right, that you don't love, that you have issues with, is conditioning. It is the sense of self that arose not out of who you actually are, not even out of an expanded sense of who you are, but a very contracted sense of who you are, that was formed by your conditioning and programming in early childhood. Depending on how you were treated, very well or very horribly, there was only so much of us that was allowed to be there. And so the vast majority of ourselves was disowned and pushed to the side. And out of this little bit that was allowed, and a lot of it wasn't even you. It was just behaviors the nervous system made up in order to get what it needed from the environment. Right? And it's not even you. It's just it's a persona, right? It's artificial and a construct. Right? It's not even you, and that just got mistaken for you. And it's always going to feel limited and small and contracted. But what if that's not you? Right? And what if the actual you that was there before that constriction took place is actually still here? Right? Is that you that was there before the conditioning anything but lovable? And this is kind of the quest we all have to go on, right? To discern what was conditioning that I identified with and took on as myself, and what is actually me. And my direct approach, the spiritual approach, the non-dual approach, is to put your attention on that which you're absolutely certain is you. And that is just the sense of your own being. I'm here. I am aware of myself. Just that. Everything else, every thought about myself is questionable. Every single one. Every thought that says I am this or that, or anything, I'm lovable, I'm not lovable, I want this, I don't. All of those are questionable because we don't really know where they came from. Right? We don't know if they're trustworthy. But the fact that I'm here, I exist, I am, that sense I am, is not a concept. I'm really here. Right? So we start with that. I am here. Okay. That I know for sure. So let's just stay with that for a moment. Right? And then I can begin to recognize that, it's an idea I have about myself, and not really me. That's an idea I have. That's an idea. This is a pattern behavior I took on. Right? It's not original with me. Okay. We don't have to try to fight with it or change it or fix it or anything like that. Just beginning this process of seeing, right? Right. And finding that in me, which actually is real and not changing and not fluctuating and not because somebody told me I was, is not the result of conditioning. It's actually here, and it's me. Getting to the end here, I'm speeding up a little bit, just to make sure I look at everything. Diane, long way to go for me at this moment. I feel hope and peace. Oops, that's from your answer too. Yeah, there's no long way to go. Jennifer, sailing the waves, it's always perfect. Hop on late, so beautiful. It's such a treat to share tea with you today. So much love. Same to you, love. Thank you, GP. Your response was comforting and encouraging, also validating because I sensed it's part of the process and where I need to be for now. Perfect. Dante, is there a difference between what powers the persona and the oneself? What powers the personas is your identification with it. It has no power in and of itself, so it's not a different power. It's you. You are the power. And that power is the one self, which is the only power there actually is. Right? So, just take that. Yeah, just take that. I've kind of come to the end here. So, powerful tea with G today. Thank you, GP. Feel the energy of love. Wonderful. Thank you so much, says Uprise Queen. I hope that's enough for you. It's a great start. If you got in here later, I'm talking about this the entire time. So there's plenty here for you to pick up on. An entire talk I did at the beginning before I took the questions is about that. Because the God within is the real you. It's the real you. Real meaning it's not changing. You can't lose it. Right? It doesn't depend on anything else. Right? It's not a belief. It's you. So, and you're untouched. So thank you, Jay. All right, everybody. I'm gonna call it quits for today. So, so lovely to be with you all today. And so good, so good, so good. All right. Bye, all.